Hello, fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is Elle, and I return to read some Law of One and share with you my opinions on it. So today I have a couple of quotes saved for you, and it's going to be mostly around the topics of the seriousness of life in combo with a sense of humor, and how what it's referred to as the light touch. So basically, life is intense, and there's a lot of seemingly bad things happening. So in order to be a loving, joyful being of the creator, there's some things that we can talk about in regards to our emotional reactions, maybe sort of breaking down our egos, and some tricks that we can use, mental tricks that we can use on ourselves to sort of keep that ego in check. And, maybe to also talk about what it means to suppress desires. And I also want to talk about how the moment is now. It is only now, and it'll only ever be now. So, without further ado, I would like to read you a quote from Quo. And this is going to be from the LL Research transcripts. So this is dated 1990, July 1st, and it's going to be from Quo, and I will read. So, Quo states, "Our other request of you is that you be light-hearted and merry, and find every chance to be joyful and to love one another, not as a solemn duty, not as a reason to polarize, that negates the polarization, but find joy in the service that gives you the true freedom and peace of doing that which you have now found, that which you wish to do with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. Be merry in your service, be merry in your worship, for the most serious choices of millions of years are being made by you now, and you would be crushed by your own solemnity and your own realization of your importance of this choice, did you not have the saving grace of a sense of humor. See the illusion and the choices that you make, not only as the life and death choices that they are, but also as part of the unimaginably funny human comedy of the soap opera that is called third density experience. Oh, how high your emotions run, and how important everything seems. Step back whenever you feel too intensely disturbed or saddened or despairing or inconsolable. Step back and see the thousands of years that lie before and after this moment. See the true situation. If you are upset with someone, be ridiculous with him mentally. Undress that person. Cause that person to act in a ridiculous manner in your mind. Tell him off. Take the clown's bat and harmlessly bat him about with it while the circus audience laughs. Do whatever is necessary for you to break the spell of the illusion, and then gaze up at the stars, which are part of the love of the infinite creator, and know that you are a player upon a stage, and you do choose the comedies and the happy endings, and have no wish to be stabbed through in great Shakespearean agony in the fifth act. The critic that is you can be assured, will give you a better review for the comedy." And that is Quo, 1990, July 1st. You can find all of this at theoneinfinitecreator.com, which is my website, and I have links to all the LL Research transcripts and info for free that you may download. Thank you to those guys for that. Okay, so let's sort of go over some of the topics in the quotes and reflect on them. It states here that, basically being of the creator, I suppose if you're somewhat in tune and activated to that degree, you would be of light-hearted and merry, joy and joyful, and, you'd be wanting to be practicing love to some degree. And as they state here, not as a solemn duty, not because you feel that you must do this, not as a reason to polarize. So it's not like I'm serving so that I can make it to heaven. I can polarize and graduate out of this density. That's basically, you got your intentions all mixed up if you're feeling that way. More so what I'm doing is I'm seeking the truth. And as I seek the truth, it seems that certain things are revealed to me, that the truth can be, seemingly bad and dark, but at the same time, there is joy in the creator. And through joy and having a sense of humor, we can sort of have the light touch with life, right? Like, life is so serious and so heavy sometimes that like we just have to like literally just make fun of it so that we can just make light of the situation. Have you ever heard the term make light of a situation? Uh, that may sound like a bad thing to some people, but you're making light of it, right? We're making love and light of the situation. We're taking coal and transforming it into gold, if you will, being an alchemist. So it says here, but find joy in the service that gives you true freedom and peace of doing that which you have now found, that which you wish to do with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. Be merry in your service, be merry in your worship, for the most serious choices of millions of years are being made by you now, and you would be crushed by your own solemnity of your own realization of the importance of this choice. Did you not have the saving grace of a sense of humor? So like I'm saying, to my understanding, we're in the third density, which is, right, there's, I guess, like 7, 8 densities or whatever in the octave, and this density that we are in is the density of choice, where we are choosing our path back to the creator, and it's basically the initial choice that we make that then we work with in all the future densities. So this third density choice today, in this lifetime, if you will, is going to be about the choice well, they say to serve others or to serve the self. Those are kind of really simple, oversimplified explanations, and obviously we could talk about the difference between those two for hours. But really, the difference is I suppose in intentions. The way I look at it is like, do you see the creation as one and all entities in the creation as brothers and sisters of the same creator, like we are all the same being, and therefore we should have compassion and love for each other and respect each other as beings of infinite worth. And then there is the seeming service to self path back to the creator, in which case, it sort of sees itself as the main portion of the creator, and all other entities are, I guess, portions of the creator to the service to self path. But the way they see it is that they feel that to control and manipulate others and enslave them for the benefit of themselves really is the best service. They really do feel that that's correct. So they feel that, if you're not wise enough to sort of join them, then to be enslaved by them is them teaching you a lesson. So you sort of have these two different paths, and they very much have to do with intentions. Are you wanting to, see others as seemingly metaphysical equals to you, or do you seek to control and manipulate others just for the benefit of yourself, and so that you may, teach others the ways of your service to self ways? Okay, so there's a brief little rundown on service to others, service to self. But like they say here, be crushed by your own solemnity, your own realization of the importance of this choice. So it's a really important choice that we have right now. Like I said, this choice is going to go forward with us in future incarnations, future densities, right? So we're in the third density of of the choice, and then the fourth density is of love and understanding, and then the fifth density is the wisdom density, where we then, wisen up all the unconditional love and compassion that we learned in the fourth density, right? We move that up to the wisdom in the fifth density, which then we go from the fifth density to the sixth, which is the density of unity, where we then sort of unify all those concepts, where we balance love with compassion, and when we see the universe through the reality of oneness, which is essentially the reality. It is the truth. It is the ultimate truth that we are one. And the illusion of separation is super very convincing. And so we right now are operating in the illusion of separation. And until we make it to the density of unity, we're sort of going to be, I guess, somewhat guessing. Like, you're going to have your intuition about the unity and the rightness of it all. But really, until we actually experience that, we don't really know, right? Like they say in the law of one, you must understand that you do not understand to make it from this density. Understanding is not of this density. This density is about choice. It's about essentially not understanding what's going on and using your heart. It's sort of like the illusion baffles your mind so that you're sort of forced to use your heart. Are you going to be crushed and turn into a selfish, service to self seeker, or are you going to be crushed and offer your crushed heart up to the creator saying, I do not know, and in fact, I would say it's more like the crushed mind, the ego, which says, I do not know. I don't understand. I just want to love. I just want, I have my heart out. I just want to love. I don't understand what all the whys and everything's. I just know that love is correct. Love is good. Good is God, etc., etc. And then I want to elaborate on their part here where they talk about beating somebody else up in your mind. So that's actually kind of funny when I read that. Usually these channelings, they're quite careful about suggesting, physical retribution, but they're clearly not doing that here. They're telling you to do it within your mind, which I'm sure you've heard the quote before, but I will read you a quote from Ra as well about this, which is basically it's stating that to know yourself in this third density, a lot of it is just you being a spontaneous, like you basically spontaneously reacting to things in your life. So as you spontaneously react to things in your life, and you basically are an observer of yourself, both in the moment and later when you're reflecting on the moment, you have this ability to express who you are from your true being. Like, yes, it sounds more disciplined to withhold a certain desire or a certain reaction from somebody for the sake of, whatever, just like not offending them, I guess. But what it's suggested in here is that the true essence of your being is your true reactions to things. So what they state here in session 18.5, they state about sort of suppressing desires. So they state, we have found it inappropriate in the extreme to encourage the overcoming of any desires, except to suggest the imagination rather than the carrying out in the physical plane, as you call it, of those desires not consonant with the law of one, this preserving the primal distortion of free will. So basically they're saying, as you call it, of those desires not consonant with the law of one. So what do they mean not consonant with the desires? Well, basically, is it in resonance with unity and harmony and love and understanding? And if it is, you can probably carry it out. But if you're feeling that whatever this desire is to get retribution, like your ego's been hurt from somebody, or from the world, and then you seek, to get back at it. Well, if getting back at that thing requires some sort of, I don't even know how to explain it, but essentially ill intentions, or, Ra has stated elsewhere in this material, like you only create karma when you are acting in consciously unloving ways. So maybe that's something that we can sort of link in here. So if you're acting in consciously unloving ways, well then, you may want to consider of doing those things in your imagination. So going back to the quote up here, where they state, do whatever is necessary to break the spell of the illusion, and then gaze up at the stars, which are part of the love of the infinite creator, and know that you are a player upon a stage, and you do choose the comedies and the happy endings, and have no wish to be stabbed in the great stick, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so it's the illusion. The illusion is very convincing, and our egos are also quite intact and quite strong. I mean, I don't know about you, but, even me, I've been practicing, this sort of spiritual path for quite some time, and I definitely still have a bit of an ego, and it's not like you break your ego. I know I mentioned breaking down the ego. It's not that, right? Like, some people misperceive what the ego is. It's not a thing per se. It's just a way to describe sort of your second and third chakras being distorted towards selfishness instead of a sort of healthy version of the truth, which I would sort of suggest is linked towards unity, which would mean that to operate outside the illusion of separation, to see others as your brothers and sisters of, the one infinite creator, and, respecting them as such instead of just treating them as, what do they call it, like cattle or whatever, right? So do whatever is necessary to break the spell of the illusion. This requires just, some mental artwork, if you will, right? So if you feel, man, this guy has really upset me and pissed me off, and how dare they? Well, maybe this is a good time to go in your mind and just play out a few scenarios. Play out the scenario as if you told them off. Play out the scenario as if you tried to be nice and forgive them. Maybe play out the scenario as if you fought the person, or you went up and you smacked them, right? Like it's not necessarily that having those thoughts makes you a bad person. It's just that you are who you are, and even if your ego's being a childish maniac, like just let it sort of express itself in a healthy manner, which what I would suggest is like not to the person if that is sort of an unfair accusation that you're reacting to, and instead do it in your mind, play it out in your head, see how it feels, see how you think the other person will react, and see how really it sort of satisfies you, right? Sometimes we think like, I want to punch that guy in the head. And then, if you were to actually do it, it really wouldn't feel as good as you thought it would. And it would just sort of be like you're all caught up in the moment with your emotional reactions. And, maybe once you go and have some lunch and you're not so hungry and tired and grumpy, maybe, you'll think that that wasn't the best choice to do at the time. And maybe it would have been better for you to sort of partake in that action in your head instead of in the sort of the real life scenario. So, there is numerous ways that we can practice breaking down our ego. Let me try to think of some in my own life that I do. I don't know if I can give any specific examples. I can just sort of say that the way that I react is, I'm sort of an observer of my thoughts. I have heard, and I don't suggest this necessarily, but I've heard this, this sort of YouTuber guy, he always says, like, don't listen to your thoughts. Your thoughts are of Satan. So he's being a little bit over dramatic in that. Like, I would suggest that, your heart and your mind both have good things to offer towards any situation. But if you're only using the mind and your mind has these thoughts, it's somewhat sort of your surface personality and your surface ego. And so, yeah, I mean, really just like to any thoughts that you're really having are somewhat egocentric, if you will. And really the truth of the matter is silence, right? Like the creator is beyond words. The creator is everything, and therefore everything at rest is silence, if that kind of makes any sense to you. Which basically means to me that anytime I'm having thoughts and I'm being an observer of my thoughts, then I suppose what I'm doing is I'm looking at those thoughts as to what, my brain and my ego are attempting to explain or be expressed. And then I somewhat balance that with, just that silent compassion of the heart. So I suppose I'm envisioning in my head right now, envisioning myself having sort of two responses to any outside catalyst or like outside person trying to, maybe attack me or whatever, right? It would be like, okay, in my mind, I'm thinking of the thoughts which tell me to get back at this person and do that and that and that so that, things can be straightened out and feel fair. Or I then, at the same time am thinking of, okay, well, what if I just like absorbed this situation, breathed, tried to understand the other person, just looked at them and smiled and laughed or just, moved on or whatever, right? So I kind of have these two things balanced in my head at all times, and between those two things I'm attempting to find the best way to express myself. So I'm wanting to express the true essence of my being, which means that I can still have somewhat like ego thoughts and be expressed, and there's nothing wrong with that, because even if there is something wrong with the way that they're being expressed, only through expressing them and basically allowing them out into the illusion can they then offer feedback to me as to the true nature of things. So that's sort of the beauty of this, is that you just sort of have to be kind and calm to yourself. It's like if you aren't wise enough to to seek the truth in a sort of pure way and you're acting out all the time, like it's not necessarily the worst thing, because the acting out that you're doing is a true essence of your being. And as you express that, you will, basically the distortion within you will hopefully become less distorted. Does it sometimes become more distorted so that it can be sort of over exaggerated so that you can finally take notice of it and start to work on undistorting it? Yes, but that's sort of the nature of the process. It's like we hold distortion, and the distortion can get so distorted that it creates, like some kind of manifestation of that distortion, which then allows us to quit ignoring the distortion. And, now the truth is before our eyes. This distortion within us exists. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to love and accept and transform it, or are we going to attempt to control and dominate it into submission? And those are sort of your two choices with, any kind of catalyst. So, I guess we didn't talk too much about the sense of humor, which is sort of what I really wanted to make this podcast about, and the light touch. But I can just elaborate that, like, I myself, I run this Law of One page. I also have a couple of like random meme pages where I post what I would consider sense of humor things. Like, sure, there's some political stuff, and sure, there's some things that maybe aren't so much full of humor and a little bit more serious. But for the most part, like this, if you want to know the page, it's Synchronicity 1111. That one, I have a lot of just basically just trying to make light of the situations. Like, I know I talk about a lot of very serious things and I make fun of them, and some people may not like that, but it's the way I cope with this illusion. I like to make fun of things. I think that when we take certain things so very serious, that's sort of what gives them their power. And, what robs them of their power is just to sort of just make light of the situation, make fun of it. It's like, take the seriousness out of the situation, because that somewhat narrows our vision sometimes. It's like we want to see with a wider vision, and so we can pick the best sort of choice that exists out there. But when we have our emotions so at play, and we're looking so serious at this, like there's this, we have to do something about this, right? You're looking with a very narrow vision, and you're basically probably going to make a distorted choice instead of, breathing, stepping back from the seriousness of the situation, looking at it with, a bit of like a wider perception, and then you have a wider range of choices to make instead of just that seemingly only simple emotional reactive choice. That we are often very tempted to partake in, because it's the temptation of your personality, the temptation of this illusion. So I wish I had some more things to talk to you about sense of humor. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think the life is funny. Like, you can go through life being serious, and you can do that, but it's not going to be the funnest time. I like to try to find the joy in every day of life, and I would think that it's not just necessarily like a choice in perception. I would honestly suggest that if you are seeking the truth and are somewhat undistorted and activated in the chakras, and basically, you're attempting to seek in a somewhat pure way. My understanding is a byproduct of seeking is joy. So there should be joy. There should be appropriate amount of joy in your life. There are terrible things out there, and you don't need to feel bad for being joyful. Like, you being joyful in the face of all this seriousness is so freeing for some people. The lightheartedness and the cracking jokes at things most people don't crack jokes at, it can just be so freeing for some people that like they just never had the opportunity to just let go of that just tight stricture around their heart and just be like, haha, okay, you know what? It's okay to make fun of that situation. Why? Because it's okay to make fun of ourselves. Like, I know that some people misinterpret, and I would just think it's because it's their ego, but, they're like, oh, how dare you, attack somebody like that. And it's like, well, sometimes like if I'm like attacking or making fun of somebody, it's not because I'm thinking I'm better than them. It's mostly because I see the same distortions within me, and I'm making fun of things within myself that already exist that I'm aware of and the way that I act out. And so I kind of make light of my own situation, by noticing it in myself and acknowledging it, and you can then later when you see it in other people, it's okay to just tell the truth, say, hey, you know what, I think this is what you're doing, and or this is what that person's doing, and this is how I feel about it, and I think the lighthearted, joyful perspective is a little bit more powerful than their emotional, reactive, narrow banded vision. And so, I just kind of want to end this podcast on this thought that I've always had in my head for many, many years about the moment being now. So I think that this moment, this understanding of the moment is always now is another way that we can sort of break the seriousness of the ego, right? So the ego and our anxiety is so much interested in not necessarily what's happening right now, but it's concerned with the future and the past. So it's like, oh, well, how will people react to this? What if I do this? What if I do that? What? Oh my gosh, I'm going to make a mistake. Blah blah blah. So you're stuck in the future, right? And then there's the other way where you're stuck in the past. Well, oh, I need to make amends for this, or oh, like they laughed at me when I did this, and oh, like I can't believe that people were so mean to me back then, and blah 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 blah. And so you have these ways of looking at the future or the past, and like to what degree you have control over those things and thinking about them. That's okay to mull over them once in a while, but to just be paralyzed by the future and the past with anxiety, you're not partaking in the moment of now. So I guess when it comes to choice, I have a lot of trouble putting this into words. So what I envision is like this universe of oneness, okay, where time is somewhat illusory. So it's almost like, everything has already happened or is happening simultaneously. That's what my understanding is. All of time is happening simultaneously. Wrap your head around that one. So if all of time is happening simultaneously, try to wrap your head around that. Like, let's, whether this is true or not, let's just do it as a thought experiment. If you exist in this moment now, then, and your past self also exists in this moment now, and your future self also exists in this moment now. I know that's contradictory, but if that is true, that everything is taking place in the nowness of reality, then that means that right now, every choice that you make in this moment both affects the past and the future. So, whether that's true or not, I do feel it's probably somewhat true with the fluidity of creation, where, like I know for sure that the future isn't always set in stone, and that even though we may see probabilities of future possibilities, they're not always necessarily going to 100% happen that way. But then, like, what about going backwards in time? Can we not go, why can we only go forward? Why can't you go backwards too? So, it doesn't really matter. My point of this scenario of explaining this is the power of your choice right now. Sometimes we think, the choice of my life is going to come at a later time, and it's going to be some magnificent point in life, and I would think it's probably not really. The choice of you, in service to others or service to self happens right now, right here, right now. And as you make that choice every day, in every moment, you change, I suppose, the past and the future. It's like if you're focused on serving others in a consistent manner, in a consistent manner, then that means that you've sort of chosen that choice in the moment continuously, right? So sometimes we have what they call the sinkhole of indifference, which is where we choose one path and then the other path and the one path and then the other, and we just sort of fall in between the middle. And if you think about time being sort of timeless in the sense of timelessness, that makes sense, right? It's like only when you are consistently choosing the choice of your whatever your decision is, only when you consistently choose that are you sort of what in like a consistent state of being. Otherwise, your being is polarizing one way and then the other and then one way and then the other, and that somewhat affects, possibly, just maybe guessing, right, your future and your past selves. So to be loving in this moment is to affect your past self, your future self, and the illusion of separation is strong even within my explaining this to you. It affects not only you, it affects the entire universe, everyone you know, everyone you don't know. We are all one of this one infinite creation, and so your choices matter, your thoughts matter, your reactions matter. You matter, my friend. We can't have this unity of oneness without you. So you are infinitely love. I am infinitely grateful for your existence, even though I may not personally know you. That's just the way it is. I love you. And I will just read you this final part really quick. Oh, how high your emotions run and how important everything seems. Step back whenever you feel too intensely disturbed or saddened or despairing or inconsolable. Step back and see the thousands of years that lie before and after this moment. See the true situation. The true situation is that we are all, behind this illusion of separation, this veil of forgetting, and we played in this dance and this comedy. And I will leave you with this quote from Ra, which is very apt for the podcast. So from session 104.26, Ra states, "We leave you in appreciation of the circumstances of the great illusion in which you now choose to play the pipe in timbrel and move in rhythm. We are also players upon a stage. The stage changes, the acts ring down, the lights come up once again, and throughout the grand illusion and the following, there is the undergirding majesty of the one infinite creator. All is well, nothing is lost. Go forth, rejoicing in the love and light and the peace and power of the one infinite creator. I am Ra Adonai." End of quote. So the illusion is very convincing. The acts ring down, the lights come up once again, and throughout the illusion, over and over, there will be the illusion, but there is the creator, and the creator is all, and that is the one infinite creator. The mystery and the love of the one infinite creator is with us at all times. So nothing is lost. Find humor in the moment, find joy in the moment. Find those little moments where you can just sort of relax, sink into the nowness of the moment, and experience the joy of unity. Because really, there is reasons to be joyful even amongst all the seeming sadness of the world. So my friends, if you appreciated that podcast, thank you so much for listening. And you can find links to it at theoneinfinitecreator.com. And, if you find value in what I do, I'd really appreciate if you would maybe join my Patreon or, shoot me some support through the one-time PayPal links. It's been a little while since I've had somebody join up, maybe a few weeks ago I've had one, and there wasn't many people before that, but I'm not trying to beg. I really appreciate everyone's assistance and everyone who does support already, and also, if you maybe can't do the monetary thing, definitely liking and subscribing to my channel, leave me a little comment, sharing this stuff around to whoever you think it might find it helpful. That definitely helps in my service as well. And so thank you everybody for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week. I've seems like I've gone into one podcast a week. We'll see if it keeps up with one or if we go back to two. But I sort of like the idea of giving a more, a longer single podcast a week. It seems like you guys seem to like that more. It seems to get more views and more watch time and things like that. So, if I'm wrong, feel free to leave me a comment, correct me, tell me what you think about the podcast. Do you want long ones, short ones, whatever it is that you feel you want to comment, feel free to leave me a note. So thank you everybody for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care.